I was just can't be bothered. So we're going to talk about the Thursday Murder Club. So I probably will. So try to read more like cozy mysteries, I guess, like ones that are just like easy to read. What I'm going to talk about later is called Bone of Contention, which I listened to early in the year. But yeah, so I listened to The Thursday Murder Club by Richard Osman, which I think is always really funny because obviously not obviously, but I know Richard Osman as like the guy from Pointless, and then he had like that like his own game show, which I actually quite enjoyed, even though I don't think anyone else watched it. You saw James Acaster be a little bit autistic, but probably shouldn't talk like that. Anyway, whatever. So yeah, that it's just funny to like merge them in my mind. Like he's obviously not, like he obviously has written the Thursday Murder Club, and I didn't really know the premise. Like I knew it was older people. I didn't quite realise it was like quite literally set in a retirement village. Well, the first book is at least. So Thursday Murder Club premise is like in a retirement village. They have this Thursday Murder Club, which the front is French opera or something random. But they're basically all 70 to 80-year-old people living in this home, and they've got I'll just say it's also a like retirement village, but also a community centre. Like the community can come and go, called Cooper Chase, and so they meet each Thursday to discuss different murder cases, cold cases specifically. Generally, this one becomes a bit more present than just a cold case, but we'll get into that. And it was started by Penny, who she's not really a character in the book. She's unfortunately at end of life, so she's in palliative care essentially, and is in a coma. But Penny she used to be a police officer, a detective, or maybe just a police officer. But yeah, former cop from the same area. So she was a cop in Cooper Chase at some point, and yeah, she met Elizabeth, who's in my mind is somewhat the main character, and Elizabeth used to be in MI6, so she's a former spy, is pretty well connected, still has like relevant connections to people in law enforcement and nothing, so basically can do whatever she likes. Ibrahim is he's somewhat still working psychologist, psychologist, / therapist, so I think he still has like some clients, but like has cut back, but again has helped on like police cases in the past, and so he still has those connections, kind of just building the case of, hey, like these people are older and they're retired, but they still have these connections, and they're doing this to like keep their minds right. But yeah, so Elizabeth and Penny kind of really connected and were quite close because of the similar background and history, and like they were retiring but didn't want to slow down, and so this was their way to keep doing their job and like keep being involved in things, which I think honestly makes sense, like is kind of like a nice premise. It would, like it's because they're just doing cold cases generally, so it's not like you don't feel like they're interfering too much in the normal circumstance. In this book they're interfering a little bit, but I don't think they never crossed the line to the point where you're like, oh, that was too far, like they didn't have to go that far. It is very okay, I'll just keep it I won't move it. They have like a warm light here, and now the sun's gone. It's just probably a bit too warm. But anyway, yeah, okay. And then Ron is the last one. Ron was an activist / lobbyist, but it kind of goes from, he like had those views, but then was just kind of in the views, like in it because he was an attention seeker. But he was like really big in like the union, like when union started, and lobbying for rights and workers' rights and all that jazz that they would have had to go through in their lifetimes. So they've got a new member of their group, Joyce. Joyce was a former nurse, primarily, I think it was emergency department. I said maybe ED nurse, like maybe emergency department. I think it was emergency department. I may have made that up, but like a lot of nurses work in different areas as well. So she's got a lot of experience, and in terms of like brings like the forensic part to their little equation that they now have. But yeah, so then you just kind of meet them, and they're like opening this case, which was a woman for like multiple stab wounds in the like early 80s. How old was it? Or 60s even, maybe. Is when they would have been about 20, because Penny was involved. That comes to light later. But then the murder comes a little bit too close to home, and one of the lead contractors on something to do with Cooper Chase, like they're expanding it, building out the area, is murdered after having a visit to the place. And so they obviously really they want to be involved because it's to do with where they live. They don't really love the owner of Cooper's Chase. He's a bit of a dick. So it's part of that of like, well, can we pin it on him? Did he do it? What happened? What was the history? Yeah. And so, what was it? Yeah, so there's a lot of side characters in this one. Obviously, all the people who live in Cooper's Chase. The main ones are Donna. She's the new cop in town. I think in a way you're kind of meant to be like, Elizabeth wants to take her under the wing, but Donna's like from the city and like moved to the country to escape for a little while. Kind of forgot the reason, but might remember it while recording. I just realised this is really diagonal. That's gonna annoy me. Anyway, now we're straight. But yeah, so there's Donna, she's just a cop. She's not a detective. Cop from the big city, came, I think maybe because one of her informants died or something, like something happened and she just needed to get out. And then DCI, Chris Hudson, he's the head detective for the case, for the murder that happened. Jason is Ron's son, who's also happens to be a famous boxer. And so you can't get into the life of like a B-list celebrity who's doing like random things like celebrities on ice and shit like that. But then is obviously like famous enough that like people know who he is, and Ron and him grew up or lived in the area for a little bit. So they've got like connections to the area and stuff like that. Bogdan is a handyman who's employed at Cooper Chase. He's mainly employed by the owner, so he's like in evil seemingly at the start. I like Bogdan, even though he's a murderer. And so yeah, we kind of follow the investigation of the guy's death. I don't even have his name down. So we followed the journey of like the investigation of like the cops from they're investigating the current death, and like the group get distracted from the cold case and start investigating it as well. But then also they're still kind of on the side investigating that cold case just because it was in the same area, like it was around the area as well. But yeah, so I think because they're older, like they kind of have like the frankness, they're a bit audacious, a bit like they're characters. And so I kind of enjoyed that part, like they all have a very distinct personality. They might clash at some point, but then they also like all like each other, and at the end of the day, they also all have their like own little secrets and stuff they're not quite telling people, and so that kind of, I can see like in the next books like that being told as well, or even just like different people finding things out at different times. But yeah, I enjoyed the frankness and the fact that like the confidence that they have, like they know what they know, and they know who they know, and they know they can get information, so then they do, and then they like weasel their way into these things, and like the way they solve the murder, well, the way they think they solve the murder is like fun, like it's a fun way to do it. Yeah, the actual mystery was okay. Like the twist I think were better than the actual mystery and the journey. Yeah, the first death made sense. The second one was like, I don't know, a bit convoluted. A lot more people than I thought would die did. So that was a thing. But yeah, I really enjoyed Elizabeth and Joyce were kind of the main characters. I don't know if in the other books like you see more like Ibrahim or Ron, but Elizabeth and Joyce were probably in my mind the main characters, and like you followed them a lot more and you saw a lot more from their point of view, as well as Donna as well. And yeah, I really liked Elizabeth. Like, she's cocky, but she knew what she did, and like, I don't know, like she was cocky in the way that she could get away with it, so it was fun. And then Joyce, like, yeah, I enjoyed Joyce and like learning about her. She was a bit man crazy, so that was a bit odd, but I guess that was just her quirk. But yeah, it really felt like, I think just because in the end, like the connection with Penny and her relationship with that, it really kind of felt like Elizabeth's tale to tell. And yeah, I don't know, I enjoyed that. I enjoyed like the way it unfolded and everything. Yeah, it was just a really fun, easy thing to read, well, to listen to. Yeah, Elizabeth was my favourite. I really enjoyed her storyline with like her husband and Bogdan, and like their relationship and what she's hiding from the others and what she's telling them and stuff like that. I think it like made her more of a whole character. And like Joyce kind of had that as well with her daughter and what was happening there. Like, they got her daughter's help, but then they didn't want to get them involved. But then I think her daughter's company bought Cooper's Chase. I don't know. I think that was the ending. I kind of forgot. Kind of forget the endings, like the very like all the little details I add in the epilogue. Yeah, but I think for me with Joyce, I didn't really get like the storyline with like Stephen, and even his death was a bit odd. Like, it made sense, but it just didn't add anything. But But yeah, I liked how all the characters, all like the main four, like had a little bit of growth, a little bit of depth as well. Like they weren't one-dimensional, which I think particularly, like, you could easily accidentally fall into that. So I think he did a good job at making them whole characters and making them have like different dynamics with everyone and all of that. But yeah, I understood like the depths. I think they all made sense, kind of. Yeah, at the end it felt a little convoluted. I think the Bogdan stuff made more sense. The Bogdan and Penny stuff made sense. And I, like, in a way, it makes sense at the end. But then also, like, it just wasn't that necessary. But yeah, I guess because I found the bones. So it's just like a lot of mystery in terms of like, oh my god, there's extra bones, and that just added a lot more, like a whole nother, like, it just, at one point I felt like there's like a twist to have a twist, even though that in the end connected back to the cold case. It was still a bit like, you didn't really need to have the cold case. Like, you kind of did to establish the relationship, but then I don't think like, if the book ended and the cold case also wasn't concluded, no one's gonna be like, oh, but they didn't solve that case. Like, I think it was more to resolve like Penny and her storyline, and Elizabeth and her grief, and even Ron and his grief because he hadn't gone to visit Penny. But yeah, it was like, I don't know, just at that point that was like the 5th person who died or something. And I was like, okay, there's way more death than I thought. But other than that, I think it was good. It was an easy listen. Good car one. We'll probably do the other ones when they're available on my library app, so I might have to reserve them. But yeah.